Nathan,
Oh, hey, Brenton.
my gosh.
Whoa.
Nathan, how are we going to get down to your wedding? I mean, we're in this helicopter so high above the island, and we need to get down there somehow. Nathan, what are we going to do?
It's crazy. Honestly, Brenton, I think we're just going to have to skydive into the wedding. It's the only natural solution.
Nathan, you know I've got a terrible fear of heights. I think we should just land the chopper, and it's much safer for everyone involved.
Everyone knows the natural way to go into a wedding is just to jump out of a helicopter. So quick, put on this backpack. Maybe it's a parachute. We'll just see what happens. You ready?
All right, I'll put on the backpack,
Three,
but I'm not
two,
jumping out of this
one.
helicopter. What are you doing? Oh, Nathan, don't push me. Oh! Ba-da-ba-da. Hey guys, welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that show, that podcast where I myself, Brenton, otherwise known as Brenton from Classic Movie Banter, discuss with Nathan, as in Nathan from Classic Movie Banter, movies that are 20 years or older, and we discuss those films, and we discuss whether those films are still worth watching today, or whether they're worth throwing away and forgetting, like your memories of those, I don't know, like, what memories do you forget, Nathan? Like, I don't remember my first meal, for example. I don't remember my first meal. I don't remember...
I don't know. Most of the time I'm with you, mate, I try and, like, blur it out. You know, that's what the therapist has been saying.
Yeah, no, I know they've been saying that to you, and we've been trying to work our shit out. This podcast was actually a coping mechanism to try and salvage our relationship. It
really was, and look how far it's gotten us, Brenton.
Oh, I know, it's great. I mean, like, seriously, like, ourselves, like, we're not in such a good place on a personal level, like, each of us. But hey, the show's going well.
Yeah, so, speaking of not going that great, you know what today is, Brenton?
Nathan, what is today?
Today is a day that we return to the James Bond franchise, our favourite franchise on the podcast, isn't it?
You know, it's days like today that make me ponder whether doing this whole Bond thing was a good idea. You know what I'm saying?
Why are we doing this? Like, you can always say that for the whole podcast. Like, just why are we talking about this? But someone's got to do it, Brenton.
I mean, someone's got to do it, and we need to protect our mental health. So here we are.
Here we are. We're here to look at old movies and to tell you if this movie, especially this James Bond movie, License to Kill, actually holds up after the long period, if it still stands heads to shoulders alongside the cinema of today, Brenton. So, are you ready, bud? Are you ready to do this fucking movie?
Nate, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get into it.
All right, mate. Can you please pitch me this movie?
All right. So, hello, Hollywood producer. My name is Brenton, and I'm here with a new film in the James Bond franchise. Now look.
Wow, but Mr. Director, there's already been so many. How would you separate this one from the others?
Well, you know what? I think what I want to do is take it back to Ian Fleming's novels. Not in terms of, like, I want to really go into this character.
We go back to a printed medium. We just stop filmmaking altogether.
Yeah. There's actually a book I'm pitching you today. No, we're going to go back to the source material and really get into this character and see, the darkness that resides within this character and try to bring that out in a film that is overall a bit darker in tone to the films and we've had before. And the only actor I think that could really do that for us in terms of Bond would actually be Timothy Dalton. I want to bring him back and I want to give him the chance to do this character the way that he can only do this character. That is what I want to do. But not only that, we actually need a semblance of a plot to go along with that. So, the reason this film is going to be called License to Kill is that James Bond goes rogue. He becomes a rogue agent from MI7, and you know why? Because he's on a revenge mission after something happens to a personal friend of his that he must seek revenge, and by all means necessary, and that includes abandoning M and MI7 to chase after the Mexican drug cartel. So there's some sabotage in here. There's going undercover. There's all this stuff, and I think that it could create a Bond film like no other.
Oh, mate, that's extraordinary! Wow, look, you're really selling this movie to me because when I think of James Bond, I naturally think of like a Mexican drug cartel movie, But Brenton, is it going to be just set in Mexico, or are we going all around the world?
Nathan, I mean, like, there's exotic locations, like, as we've said, like, I've got this great idea for an opening scene involving a helicopter and a wedding.
Okay.
So, like, there's going to be locations for sure, but
you will see a location in this film.
Yes, you will. You'll see many different shots of water. and many different shots of oil tankers of all things.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're going everywhere, Nathan.
Fantastic.
It's gonna be great.
Well, look, you know what? We've made. I've heard shittier pitches, and they've made money. So you know what? Here's some more money, and let's just see if this movie makes any money. Which plot twist it does, because every fucking Bond makes money. So, yeah. What a pitch, Brenton. Well done, mate. You're really selling it to me.
Thanks very much. So, mate, I'm getting straight into this, and I just want to say straight up that, you know what? There's some good aspects of this film.
There are.
But what I really want to say is that, for me, it's not so much about this movie that I want to talk about today. I want to talk about this franchise and how I feel about it. Every time
we got to go big picture before little picture. You're like changing like your PowerPoint slides. You got some like little star transition. It's like...
Every time I come in to talk about this franchise or a film from this franchise, I'm often greeted with this sense of just like that sound sums it up. It's that groan of do I really have to do this? And every time, like, there's some films that I kind of like. There's some films that I kind of like. There's films that, you know, I think are a bit worse or whatever. But at the same time, like, I just don't think I get this franchise, to be perfectly honest. And this film kind of cements that feeling. Like, there's parts of this movie I really like. But at the same time, I don't know who these movies are for. I know who they were once for, and they were part of this generation. But since then, like... I just feel like it's very hard to like go back as having not been a fan of these films previously and to really get into these movies and to love these movies to the extent that, I mean, the generations that they were made for loves them.
I hear you, dude. Like it's because you hear. I remember as a child when you hear about the James Bond films and you're like our parents talking about them. They're like, wow, they were the sexiest things of their days. They had like the coolest action and the cars and all that. And like, man, everyone just wanted to be James Bond or be a spy and that kind of stuff. And you watch it now, and I was honestly thinking, like, if I was Timothy Dalton in this movie, I would hate my life. Like, like it's just a miserable affair. The whole lot of it, like License to Kill, especially. It's just. What do you say about a film like this, Brenton? It's the classic spy gone rogue tale that you've seen a billion times before these days, and so something like this just feels stale. And there are good things in this movie. There's some amazing action sequences, and there's some really funny gags. But at the end of the day, it's just a long, dry affair that you can plot out beat for beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Especially this movie here. It feels like a shittier version of The Night Manager. Have you seen that series from...
No, I haven't seen The Night Manager.
It's literally the same plot of that. But imagine cramming it down. But also James Bond looks far older than he should. And like we're in Mexico instead of like beautiful Europe like they do in that series.
There's just so like, I think you really summed it up well there, Nathan. Like, and like you said, there are things to like, such as I think Timothy Dalton is like a great Bond. I really do. I love that he got the chance to do this take on Bond. And I would have loved to have seen where it was gone with a director or like a story that was maybe better suited to that.
Yeah.
And to really take that dig dive in, similar to how Casino Royale did it. Like,
but here's the thing, because like it really is trying to be the serious, dark story, but like it's so goofy at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, it just doesn't know what it wants to be because it needs that goofiness, I guess, for the time to maintain that part of the series that everyone, I guess, at the time enjoyed. But it's still trying to do this new thing, which I appreciate. But again, it doesn't really stick the landing in that sense. And like you said, there's some amazing use of special effects and some amazing choreographed fights that are really captured well on film, and some of the best in the series, I'd say. But overall, like, and by no means is this the worst film in the series I've seen, but it's the film that made me, again, like the last Bond film we reviewed, I was still a bit lukewarm. I was all right, but this one really just cemented that it's like, that's just not enough to get me in anymore, I'm afraid. And I can spend my time watching other better films that do these things better for, I guess, a modern audience.
I 100% agree with you. Like, yeah, modern audiences would make it like, well, that's what they did with like with the bloody Daniel Craig ones, and like I feel like I do in these old ones, the things that I miss from the Daniel Craig one are like the wacky gadgets and like the kind of ludicrous settings for the battles. And I do like that, like we have battles in this movie that take place underwater, and there's an amazing water sequence battle that I think is genuinely outstanding that you should like YouTube from this movie. But like there's fun gadgets, but like outside all that, like the plot is just so needlessly complicated. Like the women in this film are just so bland. Like they there's nothing really much to them, sadly. Like it's just it's just stunts. It's all the movie has going for it. Really, is just the stunts.
Yeah, and I'd say I'd throw in there like Timothy Dalton's performance, but again, what he's getting to do in terms of the plot isn't that invigorating, unfortunately. So yeah,
no, it's not. And it's great because he's good. Like you almost wish he was in a better movie. You know?
Yeah, exactly, precisely.
Oh.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to say is that I appreciate as well. It's a little thing that we get to see a bit more Q in this movie. That's always fun.
Yeah.
He's
great. Q's always great. I always love when Q. Also, because he's probably got the most energy in this movie. Like he looks so excited to actually have something to do. Like,
yeah, I agree that I love that Q is given a bit more to do, and his relationship with Bond is explored a little bit more, which is always fun. And they've got some good chemistry as well, and some good banter, which is always nice. But apart from that, in terms of the villains, like I'm not really that into the main villain or the henchman even. It's funny to see young Benicio del Toro. That's always fun.
Oh, yeah. He's great in this. And he looks so young, doesn't he?
Yeah. Gosh, he's babyface in this one. Yeah.
He doesn't have much to do, but like he has some weird ass lines. But when he does deliver them, it's great.
Definitely agreed. Yeah. Yeah. He has that. But again, he has this kind of like fun, like Bond henchman thing going. But against like Timothy Dalton, it's a bit strange. It's a bit out of place.
I feel like he's more interesting than the actual Bond villain. I thought he was quite boring.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. At least Benicio, as always, has some passion. He has some. He's got so much character as an actor, I guess. Yeah.
I really wish he was channeling more of the Collector in this movie. Like he just like had some weird like outburst. Like
yeah, he just came out and was like magnificent, magnificent. Yeah, and then he clapped his hands like a fucking crazy lunatic.
He's like...
I mean, hey.
He's like, these are what the Infinity Stones are. And then James Bond's like, what?
Totally. James Bond's like, wrong movie, but he's like, up.
Sorry.
Oh, well.
What do you think of the two main Bond girls?
Well, this is the next thing. We've gone from the villain to the Bond girls. And again, I'm just not that invigorated by either of them. I think, like, they serve their purpose. I think one of them, what's her name? What is her name?
Oh, Kennedy? The one who gets her haircut.
Is it Kennedy?
I think so. I think he calls her Kennedy at one point. Or Bouvier, I think she's also called.
Yeah, Bouvier. That's the one.
Whenever I hear Bouvier, I think of like Marge Simpson and her like her name.
Look, I think she's a bit more interesting, but apart from that, like again, like I feel like there's been more interesting Bond girls throughout the series, and yeah.
Okay, real talk when it comes to her, Brenton. Do you prefer her with the shorter or longer haircut?
Let's go short hair for sake of...
It's a huge moment in the movie, isn't it? Because like halfway through, this is not a spoiler. The woman gets a haircut, and like, and James Bond's like, oh wait a minute, this is a beautiful girl. Because initially like he meets the Caribbean girl, right? Did you find her interesting?
Not really, to be honest. I thought she didn't really bring much to the series, to the film, that we hadn't already kind of seen before. And yeah, it was just a bit stale and boring, to be honest, from that perspective. Yeah. Yeah,
I really wish she had more to do rather than just be like the mistress of like the villain. It's like, I don't know, she's just there just to be there. It's like, I don't know. And like also at the same time, like I feel like with her, the scenes drag really, really long. Like the movie's long in general, but with hers especially, it really slows down.
Yeah, totally, definitely. Like when the film tanks in terms of rhythm and in terms of pace, it's those scenes. Yeah, you're right. There's a couple other scenes as well. I think some of those scenes with the villains and stuff are a bit like plotting as well. But
even the action scenes are quite boring at points. Like there's only a handful of moments in the action that I love.
But again, like to counter this kind of, I guess, criticism that we're coming out with, like those moments those action scenes when they're really hitting the heights are just incredible. Like there's such highlights in the movie and exquisite filmmaking from that perspective. Yeah. Yeah,
I 100% agree. Like I'm so ready to talk about them in sport. It's like, I don't know. Do you want to rate this?
Well, then let's get into it, buddy. Let's rate this. Look, I'm going to give this a thumbs down. Like I said, there's some great things in this movie, such as Dalton's performance, such as those amazing spectacle scenes that we've just kind of alluded to. But overall, again, like this is the film that with this franchise that just made me go.
There's just no reason to watch it in 2019 or later, is there?
Yeah. Look. I've never seen the Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, and I really want to watch those ones because they're a bit I guess, modern, and they're, I guess, our generation's Bond. He was our generation's Bond, so I'd love to watch those. And obviously, I like some of the Daniel Craig ones as well. So I'd easily recommend those ones over this one, for example. But I don't think this is the worst one we've watched on the podcast. Like I said, those highs are so high, and it's just a shame that the film just isn't as good as those moments.
I really like the one we did before. Is it The Spy Who Loved Me?
I think so.
Yeah. The one where they're in Switzerland or whatever it is. I really love that one. I thought that was quite good. I don't know. I'm with you, mate. I'm gonna bloody keep my thumbs down as well, because like honestly, I think of nothing that you would get from this film today. Like when it comes to watching James Bond, there's billions better ones. Like when it comes, and also like Dalton only did 2, so I don't know how this compares to like The Living Daylights, but I imagine it's not that much better, because Rotten Tomatoes wise they're pretty similar as well. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna say thumbs down. Sorry. Watch any Bond that's not this one. It might even be the worst. Like, it's got great moments, but I still find it so bland. And just the more I think about it, the more how nothing of a movie I think it is.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I don't know if it's the worst, but hey, it's pretty bland.
It might be some of the most bland.
So Nathan, that being said, let's get into it. Yeah. Let's talk about the spoilers. Spoiling James Bond, aka Timothy Dalton. Yeah.
Oh mate, I would love to spoil this movie. Where should we? Actually, can we talk about the opening scene? I feel like we should go right to where this film kicks off, because when it opened, I was all in, Brenton. I bloody love this opening scene.
It is a quality opening act, I'll tell you that much.
And it's so stupid as well, because they're driving down a fucking like bridge in the middle of God knows where, and this helicopter, like he's with like his CIA mate, and he's like with some other mate, and there's a helicopter that pulls up alongside the car, and the guy in it is holding up a "Follow Me" sign. Like the helicopter just pops up out of nowhere, and so they gotta like swerve across the bridge. It's
absolutely ridiculous and ludicrous, and I love it. It's one of those moments that but again, it's this moment that kind of sets up this film that, again, the film isn't really trying to be. But that being said, gosh, it's fun. Gosh, it's fun to see this helicopter pick up these 2 guys, go up into the sky, chase after this plane, to then James Bond jumps out of the helicopter, wraps this rope around the tail of the plane, and they literally scoop this plane away with the villain in it, who then later escapes. But it's that moment from Batman,
The Dark Knight Rises.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, it's literally that, where I watch it and I'm like, oh wait, did Chris Nolan just copy James Bond?
Definitely. I think he was totally inspired by this film, and he's been inspired a lot by the James Bond franchise. And you see that in his movies. You see like the spectacle in his movies and how he really tries to make it practical. And again, like this opening and the opening of The Dark Knight Rises, again, like I think The Dark Knight Rises improves upon this particular stunt, and like obviously the stakes in that scene are so much higher than I think the stakes in this scene, and it's probably executed a little bit better. But hey man, like for the back in the time that this was made, it's pretty special to see this being done.
It is, like, and because you know it's all real, so you watch this going, holy shit, they really dragged a plane. Like, it's insanity. Like, it looks so cool. And this movie really has a lot of Dark Knight trilogy vibes, because even when they break the villain out after the wedding, and they, like, push that van into, like, the water off the bridge, it reminds me so much of when they're breaking out the Joker. When the Joker's chasing Harvey Dent across Gotham, and, like, you see that one, like, van go into the water.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I didn't actually pick up on that, but yeah, now you say that, yeah, it's a similar idea.
It's amazing. Yeah. And like, it is, like, it's a great opening, because like they're skydiving into the wedding, it's ridiculous, and everyone's like cheering them as they land and all that kind of stuff. But like, when it comes to the actual like complication of the movie, where the inciting incident where the couple was murdered, I didn't feel that bad when they got murdered, because I wasn't that attached to the characters. You could see Bond was feeling something, but I, as an audience member, didn't feel that bad. Like, did you?
No, not really. I didn't really. Like, I thought the acting was all pretty strong, in the sense of like the guy that plays James Bond's friend. Like, you know, when Benicio del Toro says that honeymoon line, I lost my shit. But again, it's kind of hilarious, that line. But then followed up by this, in like, you know, this guy that's like fighting for his life and his wife and whatnot. So that's, you know. It's like, I guess like the performances are well executed, but again, in terms of filmmaking, I'm just not feeling much. I'm just ready to go into the next scene.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just like, come on. It's like, yeah. And then when he's in it, like he offers them like a $2 million bribe, and like to corrupt one of the mates, and you're just like, wow, I can't believe everyone's that corruptible. It's kind of sad, actually. Like I love the way the money plays a role in this movie. I love it when that guy's like captured in a fucking aquarium of all places, and James Bond's like breaking in with his mate, and you just see all the money like float away, and his mate's like, oh, that's a waste of money.
Totally. Totally.
I actually did love that sequence. I love it when like James Bond like shoots a bloke and he pushes him into like the tank full of like scallops or whatever it is, and
Mate, it's it's pretty spectacular. Like, let's be honest.
it's pretty incredible.
The use of water in this film, I feel like water's a common like visual theme, like that we see lots of.
Yeah, they love their bloody water, don't they? You know what I love? I love that they're like. I'm wondering if there was a producers meeting because like, okay, let's bring back Jaws into this movie. They say we want the henchman Jaws in this movie, and producers like, oh, he'll probably ask for more money this time because he's a popular character. I guess we can't have Jaws. And then maybe they wrote down the word Jaws and it got handed through management, and so they got translated to having the shark Jaws in this movie.
Any villain that uses sharks is instantly like a great villain.
Ah.
But not in this case necessarily, but like any villain, any person on the planet that goes, you know what I need to get a tank full of sharks that when I'm feeling a bit crummy, I can just put someone in there like to be munched upon and I can watch it. Like, that says something about you as a person, I think.
It really does, doesn't it? Like, you can see it's a little bit like, it's like, just shoot them. Like, the sheer maintenance of having to feed, maintain, take care of a shark versus just a bullet into someone. Like, it's ludicrous. I don't know why you would have someone die like that. Like, oh.
Hey, mate. Again, like, guys, you do you, unless you're hurting someone else, obviously. Like, I don't condone using sharks as weapons. Like, let's not weaponize the sharks, people. Let's live in prosperity and peace with our fellow aquatic creatures. You know what I'm saying?
All right, but Brenton, how would you feel if like they bloody open the tank and you're expecting it to be a shark and the tank opens, but then it's revealed it's just Jaws swimming, like the guy, and you think it's a shark, but next minute it's him, and he's like gnawing his teeth, like getting ready to eat the guy. And he's like, oh!
I've just thought of a great spin-off from a few films. So how there's like in horror we have like crossovers, like we have Freddy versus Jason.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like we have. What if we had like a film? And I feel like we should pitch this like legitimately.
Oh my goodness.
Nathan. We should fly to Hollywood. We should get a script together, get an idea together, and if we had a film called Jaws versus Jaws. Where literally Jaws is from James Bond takes on the titular shark.
And you know who would win?
Jaws
It'd be
from Jaws.
It'd be bloody like metal Jaws, wouldn't it?
Of course it would be.
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
And it's funny, he wouldn't even have help or weapons. It'd just be him and he would still win.
Yep. And you know why? Because at the end of the day, like, although like a shark can obviously swim so well in water and whatnot, I think Jaws has just got the ability that once he gets a grip on you, and as long as he dodges like those attacks from Spielberg's Jaws, and if he gets a good grip on him, he can bite, he can gnaw into that big fella, and maybe bite a fin off. I don't know, and like slow the guy down.
That'd be great. It'd be even great if like Jaws, like if Metal Jaws interrupted Shark Jaws' like story, like turns out that like on the beach, like Chief Brody, like he hears rumors about a shark, and then turns out it's actually just a shark battle between the two Jawses, and he like stands on the beach like seeing the water splash and these two things coming at each other. He's like scratching his head. He's like, what's going on out there? Like.
Totally. Hey, so speaking of Jaws from James Bond, and speaking of James Bond, getting back to License to Kill, so let's talk about this villain. I guess I wanted to get into this idea of like how he uses and how what he does to get to his big plan with the drugs, and which kind of leads, I guess, to the ending of the film and the great climax, and like the drugs in the fuel. In the oil tankers, like going from place to place. Like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And like in a James Bond film, like there's some stupid shit, but this is pretty like.
And I love that there's like a whole sequence like dedicated where James Bond is like going into the bloody lair and which is like in some weird cultist place for whatever reason. And there's these bunch of scientists who are kind of like, you can tell they're a little bit proud of their work because they like shepherd the businessmen in and they're like, oh, check this out. And you watch them turn like cocaine into petrol. And I'm sitting there going, look, I'm not someone who's in this market, but even if I was, I'm trying to imagine like being handed a bag of Coke and the dealer saying, oh, by the way, this used to be petrol. Like,
I know.
Like, could you imagine?
Like, it's so bizarre. Like,
it's already fucked up you're putting cocaine in your body, let alone it used to be petroleum. It's like, Oh,
Hey, mate, maybe it adds another kick. I don't know.
jeez. I don't like.
But
and,
geez,
and,
it's
and they're all
pretty full
standing there, and they're all like fucking clapping at the presentation. And James Bond is like sweating because Benicio del Toro is about to recognize him. But you can tell that even in that moment, like bloody Timothy Dalton's just like, oh, he's like, oh, this ain't a good move. Like,
Totally.
it's so stupid, Brendan. Even like with that villain, like it's weird that he doesn't twig because there's so many opportunities where you would think he would finally work out that James Bond isn't like a bad bloke, but like he just doesn't. Like, I love that scene where like James Bond sneaks out in the middle of the night to like bloody do a mission or whatever it is, and then as James Bond comes back into the bedroom, like the villain opens the door and Bond's like tucked under the bed, like. It's like when like a teenager sneaks out of their parents' room. It's like that exact same sequence.
Totally. I feel like there's another spin-off idea. Like
it's like Home Alone but James Bond. Like
totally. Oh my god.
He's like,
there you go.
It's just like a month like with him like working for the villain. He has like goes up to all these shenanigans at night, but he has to be home by 10, otherwise he's grounded. Like there's like it's filmed in front of like a studio audience, and when the Bond villain opens the door, the audience is like, ooh.
Mate, but speaking of oil tankers and cocaine, how good is that last chase scene?
Oh my god, that final chase scene is extraordinary. See, there's a couple of great chase scenes in this, and that final one is amazing because it keeps on escalating, doesn't it? Because they blow up the bloody they blow up the whole bloody fort, which is amazing. But then it's this kind of like slow kind of like oil tanker zigzag. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really special. Like, and you're watching this and you're going, oh, again, it's that idea of I wish this was in a better movie because as a climax, it's like it's so fantastic. And I guess the other part of it, I guess logistically, I wish this made more sense in terms of the fuel becoming cocaine and whatnot. Like that's a bit weird, but for what it is, like. Mate, this stands up today. Like, it's
that does especially because it was all real. And so when you see him like take the wheels off one of the oil tankers and like it skids and it crashes, like that's a real oil tanker doing it. So you're just gasping at it. And when it finally comes tumbling down the side of the cliff and Bond and the villain are having a scuffle and he fucking lights the guy up at the end, you just gasp through the whole thing. Like, it's amazing, isn't it?
Totally.
I really love that action scene. I also adore the action scene. My favorite action scene in the whole fucking franchise so far is in this movie, and it's when James Bond is like fighting all those divers underwater, which I found that choreography kind of boring. But then he bloody grabs a harpoon and he just like shoots it into a seaplane, dives out of the water, and then like has this amazing sequence in this plane above the water where he like throws a guy out of the plane at one point. It's just. Whoa.
It's pretty full on. Like, it goes all over the place. It's pretty nuts, but it's exhilarating and it's fun, and it's what I want more in this movie, dude. Like, not in terms of the action, but just in terms of the scene to scene, like a different type of action as well. Like, you have those big action moments, but then like you just want those scenes to be living up to that, and they just don't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it's weird because this film tries to be so serious, and in those moments, those action scenes work. But there are some very silly action scenes in this movie that completely clash with the film's tone. Most prominently, it's when he meets the Bond girl for the first time, Bouvier, at the bar, and they have this kind of like bar scuffle, and at one point one of the henchmen grabs a fucking swordfish and like uses that as a weapon to stab Bond, and like Bond doesn't even bat an eye. He just like goes oh and tries to dodge the needle.
Dude, the swordfish sword is like the greatest thing like ever. Like, whoever was like, what we need in this moment, we need a guy to use a fucking swordfish as a sword and to just go at James Bond. Like,
Do you reckon one of the producers was at like a restaurant one night and they ordered swordfish for like dinner, and like with the waitress brings it over, puts it on the table, and the bloody producer's like, wait a minute, this could go in my movie.
I think what happened was, I think that they were sitting there at that dinner, they're at some restaurant where there's a few swordfish, and a few tanks and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And they were thinking there and they were saying like, guys, we need an idea for this scene. Like, if someone were to attack us, like if an assassin was to appear right now and we needed something to defend ourselves, what would we grab? And then they all just like glanced to the tank and saw the swordfish. Like,
it'd be like a Simpsons gag. Like they glance to the tank and it's got like a katana hanging over it, but then they continued glancing further down and they see the fish.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I love it. I love that so much. I even love in that scene how like the Bond girl has a fucking shotgun in the bar. It's like, how did she sneak it in? Like, she's barely wearing any clothes. Like, she didn't just like hide it under a dress. Like,
hey man, don't ask too many questions. They don't want you to.
Oh, no, obviously not. Like, Jesus, especially with this fucking movie, I tell you what. Oh.
But Nathan, I've got to say, this is probably, speaking of swordfishes and fish and using things as weapons and, and explosions and whatnot, and harpoons, this is definitely the most violent of all the James Bond films I've seen, I've got to say.
It is, isn't
Wouldn't
it?
you agree?
Like, brutally violent as well. Like, I think especially, for me, the most emotionally violent part was with that whole Hong Kong subplot, because there's that rival gang that's kind of making business with them, and it ends with them being good guys for some weird fucking reason, because it just delays the plot. I think it's more just busy work, but it ends with them going to like a warehouse, and then the actual villain Twigs, and he just like murders them all like violently, like shooting through the walls. It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, mate. What about that tank scene?
The tank scene? Oh, wait. Which one?
The scene with the guy in the tank, in the piece of glass, and the...
Oh, yeah! Is this when his head explodes?
Yeah, that's the one.
Jeez! That is fucked up, isn't it? Like, that. If I was a child watching that in the Bond film, I'd be like, bring back the swordfish. Like...
Please, do something. That's bloody horrifying. You know what I
mean?
mean?
It's like some paper mache, like you see the head blow up like a fucking tomato, and it just bursts everywhere, and you see it, and like... Oh, it's horrible, isn't it?
Oh, it's pretty full on, but
what's
hey,
it doing in the movie?
I kind of
like
at the same time, like I don't know what it's doing in this film, but hey, it's a pretty great moment.
It's pretty incredible. Like that alone, you should YouTube. Yep. Like I feel like that almost stills the movie. Like that guy's like bloody marshmallow head. I tell you what. Like do you get around this whole subplot with like the two girls, like the two Bond girls, like which one will you pick?
No, I hate it so much, and I hate the way, one of my least favorite moments in this film is actually how that ends, with the moment where she sees him with the other girl, and then he runs after the other girl, and it's all this bullshit, and you're just like, for fuck's sake, like can we just like move on and get past this, because it's so contrived, it's so boring. It's so needless. It's just stupid. I hated it so much. And what a negative way to end a film on. Like,
it is, because it's literally the last thing that happens in the movie. Like, they finally take care of the villain. It's all done. It's like that's the last little thread that the screenwriter suddenly remembered had to fill in like 2 pages worth of script to take care of. Because like they're all this fucking party, and Q's like, oh, maybe I should stay on the field. And Bond's like, how old are you again? And then he goes up to like the bloody Caribbean chick, and she's like, let us make love. And he's like, oh, here's the president of some Latin American country. You go with him. And she's like, okay. But they still kiss, and like the bloody haircut chick sees it, and she's like, oh, okay. So she goes downstairs, and Bond's natural next move is to fucking jump off the edge of a balcony, fall like a story into a swimming pool, which I'm sure would have hurt. And like he apologizes, kind of. But then, and they make out, and then like she just forgives him instantly, and it pans to like a weird statue of a fish as they do it, and I'm not too sure what the message is there, Brenton.
It's so stupid. Like it's so dumb. It's such a stupid way to end the movie. And yeah, the fish statue again, like bringing it back to that theme of water and an aquatic life. I don't know. Maybe there's something in this movie about that. Maybe,
I don't get it.
There's something about. I don't know.
It's the gory Tarantino shit that makes up for this movie. Like the end of Benicio del Toro. That alone makes up for it.
Oh, that was a good end.
That was amazing. You just see him. You see, like, because you can see the whole movie, Benicio just doesn't like Bond, and you're just waiting for him to twig. When he finally does, he's like, okay, rather than shoot this guy, I'm just going to throw him down a fucking like wood shoot clipper thing. And like Bond's just hanging by the string of his teeth, and then Benicio gets thrown down, and he is sliced into a billion pieces. Like, oh.
Mate, he dies a pretty gruesome death. Yeah, it's pretty full on. But hey, it's a great moment and a great way to go. You know,
it is actually. Yeah. So Brenton, should we see what stills this movie?
Nathan, what stills this movie? Because it's pretty amazing. What stills this movie? One
character that we've omitted from this film, Brenton, is probably the most important character of them all, isn't it?
Who is that, Nathan?
So the Bond villain. They're like, okay. Blofeld is bloody. He's got his white cat that he strokes. And they're like, that guy in the other Bond movie, he's got Jaws as a pet, probably. So what can we give this Bond villain? So they're like, you know what? He's in the Caribbean, so naturally we're going to give him a fucking iguana.
That's got like a diamond like collar thing on it that sits on his shoulder. It's fucking amazing.
And
like
the screenshot we have, if you want to see the screenshot, by all means, just go to our YouTube channel and you can see the photo there. It's the way the lizard is introduced is that it goes to like some random action scene and just hard cuts to the villain like drinking some whiskey, and the camera pans and it's just revealed in the shoulder as this fucking iguana, and no one really bats an eyelash that he has one, and he has one for no reason. And then some chick walks in and she's like, oh yeah, how's the iguana? Like, I don't know why it's there.
Nathan, in this still, can we play an imagination game and decide what the hell this iguana is actually like whispering in his ear at that moment?
It looks very sensual, doesn't it? Like
I think it's something like, "Hey baby, can I have a sip?" Like, you know what I mean? Like
he just gives some of the whiskey to the iguana. What if the iguana's like, "Please don't feed me to the sharks"? Like, what if every day the Bond villain threatens the iguana, saying, "I'm going to throw into the shark tank if no one pisses me off today," and when he finally throws a henchman into the shark tank, the iguana like lets out a sigh of relief. It's like, yes, it's not me today.
I feel like there's another spin-off film just in that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, tell you what, this iguana, it should have made our 7 seasons episode on animals. I tell you what,
it probably should have. Yeah, but Nathan, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
How did they make this making movie magic? Yeah.
How did they make this, Brenton?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's what I was asking you.
What a great section. So let's look at this film's post. No. So the reason, so in this movie, the Bond girl has a haircut, and it's made up as this big moment, and it's like, I don't know why. Maybe she's the first Bond girl to have short hair. Who knows? But like the reason she has it is that the actress in real life has short hair. It's a famous look that she has. She's very beautiful with it. But when they started filming this movie, they're like, no, you can wear like the wig and all that kind of stuff. And she started doing it, but she didn't like it at all. So they incorporate, but because the actress disliked this wig, they're like, fuck it, let's just write a quick scene where she has to go get a disguise, like with the biggest air quotes you can. And then when she comes back, she just has this new look. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's why.
I wanted to say this as well. You know how we're saying that Benicio del Toro
indeed.
is a bit of a baby face in this. Like, he's very young. But you know, at 21 years old, Benicio del Toro is the youngest actor to play a villain in a James Bond film.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
21.
You believe he's young, but you could have easily told me he's in his mid-20s and I would have still believed that as well. Like, but that's crazy. He looks very much like a rebel without a cause kind of look in this movie, doesn't he? Like,
yeah, he does. Definitely does. Yeah.
I reckon he was definitely in the running to play Scarface after this movie, I tell you what.
I bet you he was, yeah, definitely.
Do you know, Brenton, that Diana Rigg was referenced in this movie?
Really?
Yeah. So when you and I watched on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and you know she's his wife, and spoiler alert for that movie, she gets killed at the end. That's referenced in this movie, and what happened was that when they were writing the script, the movie was actually called License Revoked because he has his license to kill revoked, and the obsession that he has chasing after the bad guy was based on his own dead wife, and there was going to be a section in that script where he references dead Diana Rigg, going, "Oh I lost my own wife, so because you lost your wife, I got a bloody, get me gun out," and so yeah, that's there was initially going to be more of her in there.
There you go. That's really interesting.
More Diana Rigg is always a good thing, isn't it, mate?
Exactly. Hey, but did you know that Bond's controversial betrayal of M was a way to sidestep the fact that the British have no jurisdiction over a Latin American drug cartel? Like, that's why it was kind of written in as well. Like,
that's so stupid.
Like, they had to find a reason to get over there.
You can so tell when you're watching this movie that they just chose Mexico as a setting and they just like did the rest around that. So like, I feel like it was very late in the process. They actually woke up to the fact that they do have no jurisdiction. So they're like, guess he's resigning.
I mean, like, it's just an excuse to make our way over there. It's just like, well, great. Like, that's how it will happen. And that's the reason, which is a shame because it's probably the most interesting thing about Bond in the film. Is that he's so overcome with his revenge,
Have you seen Quantum of Solace?
I have not. And I don't really have an intention to because no one seems to like it.
It's not as bad as everyone says. It's a billion times better than this, in my opinion. Like, way better. Especially if you love Casino Royale, because it really continues that story quite nicely. But in that, he goes rogue pretty early on. So if you want to see an even better version of him going rogue, watch probably Quantum.
I'll consider it. Yeah. Thanks, man.
That's a polite way of saying no, but okay. Timothy Dalton, he was very homesick when he made this movie. So he had to fly back to Britain because, and I quote, this is the reason he got homesick, because he missed a good pint of beer.
Oh, poor Timothy.
It's kind of sad though. The Mexicans do great beer, Brenton.
Have you been to Mexico, Nathan?
I've not been to Mexico, but I have had Mexican beer. And one of my favorite beers ever is called Desperados. And like, they are extraordinary. They're so good. Brenton, it's tequila beer.
Oh.
And now
so
you
Nathan,
think
what you're saying,
tequila and beer together would be horrible, but Brenton, it's bloody outstanding. And even if you hate tequila, you're going to love tequila beer. I tell you what.
Oh, sounds divine. But what you're saying is that Timothy Dalton needs
He didn't want it.
He needs to suck it up, man.
He
Like,
didn't like his Corollas. I tell you, his Coronas. Corollas. He didn't like his Coronas at all, did he? No.
I mean,
Oh, could you imagine? You know, in the Fast and Furious movies, always bloody drinking Coronas.
right?
Yeah. It'd be funny if like James Bond started that. Like they initially got it from this movie. Like he's just drinking that for some weird reason.
Totally.
It reminds me at the start of bloody Skyfall when you see James Bond die and at the start of the movie, and then you see him like with some chick in a bed. That's the very next scene you see him in, and he's like drinking out of a Heineken.
Oh my god!
I remember watching that in the cinema, thinking Heineken must have paid a fuckload for that scene.
I know, right? Yeah, like it's funny when you see those scenes when like you see specific like little adverts that are in the film and like product placement and whatnot, and you're just like, wow. That they must have paid a fortune to get themselves in that.
It's funny. I really want to know how those deals are made, Brenton. Like, because there's some really egregious examples of it, but also I'm sure there's some great examples of it that have genuinely promoted the brand.
Yeah, such as Happy Gilmore and Subway.
Yeah, that's what we should do for a bloody 7 seasons, mate. That's something that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
I'll consider it. I think that's quite a good idea.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Ideas on the podcast. We've done something productive for once, Brenton.
So, do you know that this was the last Bond movie to be directed by John Glenn? And you can kind of see why.
Yeah, he's like, I've had enough of this. But also, like, they rebooted it after this, so probably they did want some fresh eyes.
Exactly, yeah.
More like GoldenEye, am I right?
Hey, the film I haven't seen yet, so...
Oh, yeah, mate, you would love GoldenEye. It's so good!
So, do you know that budget restraints were actually imposed as the producers were still paying interest on the overspending of Moonraker from 1979?
Really?
Yeah, man.
Wow. I love it. Like some poor producers sweating, like just watching like all the bloody vehicles blow up and they're like, oh gosh, like I hope this makes us some money. It's like it's like
totally.
like
they're just like
they're like getting to Mexico and like maybe we should like have this like set in space again. And then the producer's like, oh no, God, we can't. Let's just set in the cold, please. Like, oh.
Yeah. Do you have any more facts, buddy?
Last fact from me. The reason it's set in Central America is because the movie was released the same time as the Cold War, and so because they're normally against Russians or Soviets and that kind of stuff, it wasn't really considered that much as a threat. So the producers thought that a drug dealer, in the time of like the war on drugs, would have resonated more with local audiences.
Right.
So that's why they moved there, mate. And you know what? I do kind of get around to like a Latin American setting. I remember in bloody Quantum of Solace again, they go to I think Bolivia, and that's an incredible sequence when they go there. I love that part. So basically what I'm trying to say is watch Quantum of Solace over this, Brenton.
Yeah, it's been coming up a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Nathan, now that I know how they made this movie,
yes.
I just want to do something right now, and I want to sidestep and hey, let's look at this film's poster.
Mate. What a shit poster. Like,
what a fucking train wreck of a poster. Like, guys, if you look at this poster, it's obvious that it's been photoshopped from multiple photos of just different photos that are all laid over this one image. Then it looks like absolute shit.
It reminds me of like the shitty Spider-Man posters that we get these days, from like Homecoming and Far From Home.
In what way?
It looks like they got like a year 9 graphic design student, not even a university graphic design student, because that's an insult to university graphic design students. They got some like 14-year-old kid who's maybe had, some experience in Microsoft Paint, and they've like kind of clicked and dragged different images of characters from like promotional posters, and they've put it over this like blue backdrop with giant 007 letters, and it's just it looks like they're trying to do a watercolor effect, but it's not really happening. So they're like, it's just bland. Like, remember the bloody poster for like, I think it was on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and it's like the whole fucking layer being blown up. Remember that poster?
I do.
They went from that to this, and it's just, and like, it's even got a shitty tag, like it says, James Bond is out on his own and out for revenge. It's like, who cares? Like,
Nathan, the only redeeming quality about this whole poster is that the fucking iguana is on it. Like,
but you know what that means? It means audiences would have looked at this poster thinking, if the iguana's on the poster, it's going to play a prolific role.
Yeah, look, Nathan, if it was me and if I was trying to improve like the marketing of this film and improve their poster, I would just make it a poster with the 007 and just have the iguana just like sitting there. You know what I mean?
Tell you what, mate, that's how you do it. That's how you bloody do it. Like, I'd have the iguana just like just like sitting on top of like a lever that opened up to a shark tank, and maybe you think the iguana's the one running the operation. Or imagine if that like James Bond like breaks into the head office and he finally is about to arrest the bad guy, and the guy's like, please no, I'm just a hostage, and like they all glance over at the iguana, and it's revealed the iguana can talk, and it's like
it's like, I was me the whole time, and then he just like presses a button and he like rockets out of there.
And James Bond's like, oh no, my arch nemesis, an iguana.
Well, since as we've established that this post is pretty shit, should we talk about the title, License to Kill?
What do you think about it, mate?
Mate, he doesn't have a license to drive. He has a license to kill. Look, it's an alright title. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's
like it is very James Bond, a license to kill. Like I will give it that, but like is it in the movie? I mean, you never actually see the license. Do you reckon they actually print licenses when they say of a license to kill? Like it's like right next to his like driver's license. It's like just one with like a little gun logo on it. Like
it's like, oh, you killed someone. It's like, yeah, I did, but look, I got my license. I see. This seems to check out. On your way, good sir. Thank you.
It's like when you get a driver's license in Australia, like he has to do like a theory test and a practical test. Like he has to like do a little questionnaire before he gets his license to kill. It's like
Hey, Nathan, do you know what I think an improvement on this title would have been?
What would it have been, mate?
License to an iguana.
Oh my god, yes. Or even just like, what about even just like license to revenge, or even like to kill for revenge, or something like that. You know, like.
No, look, I think License to Kill is snappy enough that it works, but I get what you're saying. You're yearning for something a bit more, something with maybe with a bit more gravitas,
more linked to the movie. At anything, it's like even it's like To Kill a Mexican or something like that. You know. Although I'm sure Mexico would have probably hated that title.
That is the worst title I think you've ever recommended on this show. But hey, that's okay. We're here to live and we're here to learn, and that's all right.
We're here to grow, Brenton. Like, we're here to say we shouldn't be killing Mexicans.
Exactly.
So let's pass that power, mate.
Power to the people. Let's pass it to the people. The power. License to Kill.
I just like that you suddenly whipped out an iguana while you were singing that. Like, for starters, how did you sneak it into my home? And two, can I please have it?
His name's Scott.
I love it. Dude, how would you react if you got given an iguana for your birthday?
Nathan, I would be very, very happy. But I would then ask, how do I take care of this thing? And what does it need? Like,
it'd be pretty ballers. Did I ever tell you I was at a bus stop like not too long ago and I saw a guy with a fucking parrot on his shoulder?
No.
Yeah. It was like ages ago back in Balmain. And like I was walking past, I was on the way to work one day, and there was a bloke like at like 8 a.m, like standing outside the Baker's Delight. You know there's a Baker's Delight on the way to my house?
I do.
He was standing outside that. He had a fucking parrot. And he was like trying some bread right next to the bus stop. And the bird was kind of looking across, and I'm like, what a badass. Like he's just got a fucking parrot.
Nathan, I feel like that's when you know you've made it in life. When you're standing there on the street and you've got a fucking parrot on your shoulder.
And you know, he didn't even look that weird. He was in like a nice shirt and some pants and that kind of stuff, but he just had this bird on his shoulder. It's like, that's the life you want to live, isn't it?
Exactly. We should purchase a parrot each, and
we'll bring it onto the podcast, and he'll just be repeating what we say. It's like,
oh god, what a nightmare. But hey, Nathan, looking at the power to the people, not the power to the parrots, power to the people. License to Kill on the tomato meter has a 77% and an audience score of 60%. So
pretty good.
You know, it's all right. Candace Russell from South Florida Sun Sentinel says, License to Kill gets better as it unfolds for more than 2 hours. It just takes an insufferably long while to find the right pace.
Do you think it gets better in the second half than first?
I don't know. I feel like the beginning and the ending are the strongest, but apart from that, I'm just... it's hard to stay into it. Because again, like Candace says, that this is longer than 2 hours. And you feel it. It feels even longer than that.
Oh, I know. And this film crawls, and that's especially why we definitely say no to it. Like, I can't imagine people who are just casual fans of movies, like, genuinely loving something like that. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Even modern Bond films, I think, can slug through something. I remember Spectre, especially, felt way, way too long. So I can't imagine anyone sitting through this over that. Tim Brayton from Antagony and Ecstasy, great title for a magazine, wrote, The good, this is simply... Sorry, I'll say that again. The good, this is beautifully complicated stuff. The bad, simply, it's not a Bond film. I would say maybe the reverse of that is true. Because the good, I think, is that it is a Bond film, but the bad part of it is that it is complicated. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it being a Bond film makes it good. You know what I mean? I think the good is there's some great action sequences, and the bad is that it's a bit contrived, a bit plotty in terms of its length, and it's not that interesting. Like, it's a bit boring.
It's the Brenton of movies, isn't it?
Oh, you bugger. You got
me.
You got me. Oh, okay, fine. One of these days I'm going to find the Nathan of films and I'm going to let you know. And
excuse me, I think we already have. It's called Cats.
Nathan, you are many things, but you are not Cats, the musical.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. I'd like to think I'm the Rocky IV of movies.
Oh.
Just
you probably are.
Here far too long after its due date, and kind of interesting that you want to keep looking at it, but you know it's not the right thing to do.
Nathan, I think you're onto something there. Same as Tim Brayton, who says, we just said that one. Kevin Fiddler, which is a very unfortunate name from Henderson Home News, says, this is the worst Bond of all time. 0 out of 5. No, it's not the worst Bond movie ever made. Sorry.
I think there's in his defense, I think it might be the worst one I've seen so far. I mean, we haven't seen all 24 yet, so we can't really say, but is this the worst one you've seen?
No, by no means, no.
Did you hate Japanese Bond more?
I did.
Yeah.
It's
pretty shit, isn't it? Oh. Ryan C gave it 5 stars, and he wrote, I can't lie. I've seen all 23 Bond movies, and this one still manages to be my favorite. It's like James Bond versus Scarface in a revenge story that's very gritty. This is probably the most violent James Bond movie today, but that's not why it's my favorite, at least not the main reason. My main reason is that it just works.
That's the most, like... That's basically a review that's kind of like this film in the sense that it's plotting, it's kind of boring, and it goes nowhere.
It's so true. But you know what? I feel like even on premise, like James Bond versus Scarface would be a great premise, but this movie executes it so shittily, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah. What's your favorite James Bond, mate?
Casino Royale.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it?
It's very good. It's excellent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love it. Skyfall's pretty good as well, mind you. And also bloody Goldfinger's awesome.
Again, I have to watch it.
We'll get to it. We'll get there, mate. Eventually.
I'm not the biggest fan of Skyfall, though. Like, I like it. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's incredible.
But it's like if James Bond versus the Joker.
Really? I don't know about that.
Oh. It's very similar. Look at the recount the plot of The Dark Knight, then recount the plot of Skyfall, and you'll see they're quite similar. But yeah.
Yeah, but does that make it good, though? Like... if I compare those two films, I think like The Dark Knight is head and shoulders above Skyfall.
I suppose. Oh yeah, definitely.
A discussion for another day, because Steve Perry says,
I feel like there's good essays that have been written better than you and I just expressed it then.
I agree, yeah. Steve Perry says, I was gutted Timothy Dalton never continued after License to Kill. I'm a bit gutted as well, Steve.
Yeah.
I think he had something to offer and he just never got to really capitalize on that, because I think for the time and what these movies wanted to be, he just... it just wasn't that, you know? And he was trying to... It's like he was almost trying to be the Daniel Craig at this time, but, you know, the world I don't think was ready for that.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think the world was. And, like, I do wish we had more Timothy, because I really like what he does with Bond. But then again, knowing what the next film was, GoldenEye, it had to be, like, with a new Bond, because we finally got Judi Dench, and we, like, finally... And with the story, especially that they're telling, it makes more sense with Pierce Brosnan. Like... It wouldn't have been as good, I think, if it didn't have Brosnan. So, yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like with the Bonds, I feel like Connery's the best, or one of the best, and then it goes straight down to the worst, and it slowly gets better and better as the films go on with each subsequent Bond.
That's an interesting idea, Nathan. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how it holds up. Lastly, of the comments, bloody Alec Davidoff wrote, "License to take her pants off."
Jesus, Alec. Like, how original can you get?
You forget that this existed in a time where, like, you know, pornography was extremely difficult to access, and, like, you know, people came to these movies because of the women and because of the sex scenes in this movie.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
That's a thing. I'm not making this up. Like,
yeah, like, that's the time. Like,
tell you what, though, I'm glad the James Bond films did drop that, and it's slowly balancing the genders. Like, it would have been worse if it just escalated it to the point where, like, it turns into like Wolf of Wall Street, like Scorsese plain orgy. You know, like.
I mean, hey. Who knows? I mean, the franchise is still going. Who knows where we're going
Who
with it?
knows what will happen next? We'll see you next year for James Bond 25.
Well, Nathan, that's License to Kill.
License to to end this podcast. I tell you what.
Yeah, mate. There it is. Better pass the test on that one, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know what you're
saying. But it's, yeah, License to Kill. Thanks for listening in, guys. I mean,
yeah,
like,
thank
obviously,
you. Thank you for actually liking this movie.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And if you want to discuss your thoughts on this film, and if you really enjoy this film and you disagree with us, feel free to send your thoughts to our Twitter, well, our Twitters, I should say, or you can send us an email. You can reach us on YouTube, and you can also find us obviously on the podcast app as well as SoundCloud. So yeah, check us out.
Yeah, let us know like what the shittiest James Bond is that you've seen. I'd love to know that, like, because this is pretty bad, but I want to know if there's even really much worse out there.
Yeah, guys, so keep in contact, let us know. And Nathan, we have a wedding to get to. So,
we do. It's amazing we've been able to do this while we've been still falling. Like, man, we must have been pretty high up.
I know. Nathan, wait. I forgot to put that backpack on.
Oh, no. Thank God it's taken an hour to fall down. Like, I'll tell you what.
No, Nathan, no.
Oh, bye, dude. Ah!
Da-na-na-na. Na-na-na. Oh, we did it, dude. We did it again.